Meeting is being recorded. So I think in the group I was in, we had a lot of good discussion points taking place. So we can maybe feed back. What kind of things did you discuss in your groups then? What were the kind of main differences between the first reading compared to the second reading of the story?
Stunned silence.
I'll go. So we talked about how fantastic the visuals were. So immediately we know there's two characters in this story. One's female, one's male. So that's a starting point. We noticed that you, Callum, were gesturing with your hands. So that was a sort of added support. You were using your cursor to direct our eyes to certain points in the picture. So we knew, oh, we're supposed to look at her, or now we're supposed to look at him. So that worked as well. You were repeating things, a couple of times, so that helped. Mm-hmm. And lastly, I would say it was the combination of all of those things that helped. All of them supported the others.
Leanne, I think there's a lot of good points you've made there. See, when you mentioned the cursor, how could we, if you're not doing this on a screen, what would be an analog equivalent of doing that?
Well, you use your hands to point to things and direct. You start to use your body in lots of different ways to match what you're trying to say. Use your body language, utilize it.
Yeah, definitely. Does anyone else want to come in, add anything?
Oh, I thought she said it very well.
I think it's a lot of, if you've put yourself in a mime position, it's the whole of your body language, whether you look pleased, displeased, happy, using muscles, putting your hand up to stop people. It's that sort of whole genre of body language which helps.
Yeah, I mean, using like body language, it's a whole combination of things to even make one thing meaningful. All that can help. What about the speed? Did anyone notice any difference in the speed between the first one and the second one?
The second one was much slower, and I think there was more repetition in the second one.
Yeah, there was. I think I began by saying repetition was bad, but I meant that when in the radio context where there's nothing else supporting it, but repetition does support when you're speaking more slowly, and other things are there to kind of support meaning, like pointing and showing images. All that does help with getting meaning across. Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, we'll do a couple of little exercises with the same story, just to see how much we've retained. And don't worry if you don't get it, will be it's not too hard. Okay. Okay. So back into German mode, okay? So sagen Sie rot oder schwarz? Okay, so rot oder schwarz? Was ist das?
Rot.
Rot, gut. Und das, was ist das?
Schwarz.
Sehr gut, sehr gut. Ja, okay, toll.
Danke.
So, rot oder schwarz? Eine Woche vergeht oder er hat keinen Hund? Eine Woche vergeht oder er hat keinen Hund?
Schwarz.
Ja, gut, genau. Eine Woche, 7 Tage. Okay, 7 Tage. Eine Woche. A week, okay? Eine Woche vergeht. Ist ein bisschen schwer. Rot oder schwarz? So, rot, hat keine Zeit, ein Geschenk zu kaufen. Oder schwarz, hat keine Zeit, ein Geschenk zu basteln. Lian, was meinst du?
Schwarz.
Schwarz.
Ja.
Schwarz basteln.
Make.
Basteln oder kaufen? Rot, okay. Hat keine Zeit, ein Geschenk zu kaufen. Kaufen, okay, kaufen. Kaufen. Okay. So we've discussed, in the breakout rooms, we discussed the kind of differences between the first reading and the second reading. So we had input. In the first reading, you had input, you didn't have comprehensible input. In the second reading with the images, you had the same input, but it was made comprehensible. Okay, so when we've got comprehensible input in the target language is the language that we're learning. Okay, so if you have Ukrainian guests, their target language in Scotland is going to be English. So if we have comprehensible input, if people get enough input that's comprehensible, they start to acquire language and they'll start to pick things up and understand things. So we hope that we've kind of demonstrated, okay, how we spoke about Krashen, this linguist at the beginning, his thesis idea of language acquisition and comprehensible input help to make understand language, a language that we might not even know how that comprehensible input can give it meaning and make it understandable. And there's a lot of, I think in one of the rooms I was in, we were speaking about how it can be quite frustrating. Okay, when you don't understand that you can get that level of frustration that's caused by not understanding. And when we think about comprehensible input, it's pleasant. Okay, we like it when we understand. Okay, as we said, like not understanding can kind of cause negative feelings, and it can make you want to maybe sometimes give up as well. So if you actually make things understandable, it's nice. You like understanding. It's not torture. Okay, when you're listening to a new language. The other thing about it as well is it's involuntary. Even if you didn't want to, you picked up some German. Okay, you can't help but pick up when the input is comprehensible. It works at a subconscious level. You're not memorizing words, you're hearing them, but you're understanding them in that context. It's effective when we make input comprehensible. It's an effective way to get meaning across, to help communication, to help people acquire language. And it works well with all levels. That can work with someone who's got zero knowledge of a language. It can help with people who have got already maybe a smattering of English or another language. All these things can help with understanding. It helps contextualize what's actually being said as well. It helps transform that kind of stream of random sounds into a context. And it can also help build listening skills and vocabulary subconsciously as well.